Good evening, Commissioners, staff and members of the public. I declare the Special Council meeting of 16 October 2025 open at 5:30. I wish to acknowledge the Kariyarra people as the traditional custodians of the land we're meeting on. I recognise their strength and resilience and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. This meeting is being live streamed and audio recorded to facilitate community participation and for minute-taking purposes, which may be released upon request to third parties. In accordance with Clause 6.16 of the Town of Port Hedland Standing Orders Local Law 2014, members of the public are not permitted to use any visual or audio electronic device or instrument to record the proceedings of any meeting unless that person has been given the permission by the presiding member to do so. Members of the public are also reminded that in accordance with Clause 6.174 of the Standing Orders, mobile telephones must be switched off and not used during the meeting. I note that all commissioners are present and their attendance will be listed under item 3.1 of the minutes. There are nil attendances by telephone or instantaneous communications. Item 3.3, apologies. CEO, do we have any apologies?
There are none, Chair.
Thank you. Item 3.4, approved leave of absence. Do we have any approved leaves of absence?
No, we don't, Chair.
Does anyone wish to declare an interest for any of the items in the agenda this evening? Okay, so we move on to item 4, public time. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an opportunity for members of the public to ask questions of council. I note as a special council meeting that public questions and statements must relate to the items on tonight's agenda. Clause 6.73 of the Town of Port Hedland Standing Orders Local Law requires members of the public wishing to ask a question to complete a question form and place the completed form in the tray provided. If myself as a presiding member determine the questions or statements are out of order due to the use of offensive or objectionable expressions or are defamatory, they will not be considered, recorded or responded to. Public questions are allocated a minimum of 15 minutes under the Act. Public questions and statements received in writing will be provided the opportunity to present first, followed by other members of the public. Item 4.1, public question time. I declare public question time opened at 5:33. CEO, have we received any questions prior to the meeting?
No, we haven't, Chair.
Do any members of the public wish to ask questions? Okay, then I declare public question time closed at 5:34 p.m. Public statement time. I declare public statement time opened at 5:34 p.m. CEO, have we received any public statements?
No, we haven't, Chair.
Do any members of the public wish to make a statement? In that case, I declare public statement time closed at 5:35 p.m. Are there any questions from the elected members or the commissioners? Item 6, announcements by presiding member without discussion. I'll just make a very brief statement regarding the reasons for the special council meeting this evening. There was an incredible amount of business for us to get through in advance of the last ordinary council meeting, and to ensure that we were adequately prepped to deal with the budget and the council plan, we decided to contain that agenda to those particular issues and then have the special council meeting tonight to carry over or to consider business carried over from the previous council meeting. So again, we could make sure that we were across the items that were proposed to be in the agenda. So from this point forward, we intend to pick up a normal cadence of business, and the ordinary council meeting schedule will be as published on the Town of Port Hedland's website. Item 7, declarations of commissioners to have given due consideration to all matters contained in the business paper before the meeting. I invite all commissioners to declare by a show of hands that they've given due consideration to all matters contained within the agenda. Okay, item 8.1, regulatory services. Item 8.1.1, application for development approval for electricity transmission lines on various state government land holdings. We have an officer's recommendation before us that requires a simple majority vote. The Council approves the development application reference number 2024/143 in accordance with Clause 68 of Planning and Development Local Planning Schemes Regulations 2015 and the Town of Port Hedland Local Planning Scheme number 7 subject to the conditions and advice notes contained in Attachment 1 and in accordance with the development plans contained in Attachment 2. Can I have a mover?
I so move, Chair.
And a seconder?
I second.
Thank you. Does a mover wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, if I can just make some brief remarks, Chair. I support the officer's recommendation at this item, including the proposed conditions. I think it's a well-prepared report and is quite a good and easy read. In summary, the application the proposed development is to construct a 7-kilometre high voltage transmission line across a Crown Reserve intersecting Northwest Coastal Highway, and I draw attention to sensitivities in the report in relation to the impact on visual amenity. Whilst the proponent's consultant argues that no impact or the impact is minimal on an already impacted landscape and recommends no management action, I agree with the officer's assessment and the proposed condition, which includes a specific requirement for a visual landscape management strategy. The Pilbara is significantly influenced by heavy industry, perhaps more so than any other place in our state or nation. However, in considering this application or applications of this type, we must balance the industrial necessities and economic opportunity with the amenity of the community and also maintaining the town as an attractive place to live and visit and not just invest. So I support the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Jurovich, do you have any comments? As the motion is not opposed, I declare the motion carried by simple majority. Item number 8.1.2, application for development approval for Port Hedland Power Station expansion on lot 255, number 53, Budari Station Access Road, Budari. We have an officer's recommendation before us that requires a simple majority vote that Council approves development application reference number 2025/053 in accordance with clause 68 of the Planning and Development Local Planning Schemes Regulations 2015 and the Town of Port Hedland Local Planning Scheme number 7, subject to the conditions and advice notes contained in Attachment 1 and in accordance with the development plans contained in Attachment 2. Can I have a mover?
I so move, Chair.
And a seconder?
I second the motion.
Does the Commissioner wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
As the motion is not opposed, I declare the motion carried by simple majority. Item 8.1.3, application to amend development approval for temporary workforce accommodation on Lot 2, number 15, Dempster Street, Port Hedland. We have an officer's recommendation before us that requires a simple majority vote that Council approves the application for an amendment to the development application 2022/191, reference number 2022/191.01, in accordance with clause 77 of the Planning and Development Local Planning Scheme Regulations 2015 and Town of Port Hedland Local Planning Scheme number 7, subject to the conditions and advice notes contained in Attachment 1. Can I have a mover?
I so move, Chair.
And a seconder?
So second.
Does the Commissioner wish to speak to the motion?
I might just make a brief remark, Chair. This is obviously not a new matter before Council, with development approval first granted in May of 2023. This matter substantially this application relates to extending the approval from April 2028 to April 2033, arising from various delays and other constraints on the applicant. I support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Jurovich. Thank you. Okay, as the motion is not opposed, I declare the motion carried by simple majority. Item number 8.1.4, Scheme Amendment number 6 to Local Planning Scheme number 7, Short-Term Rental Accommodation Initiation for Advertising. We have an officer's recommendation before us that requires a simple majority vote that Council 1, in accordance with Section 75 of the Planning and Development Act 2005 PD Act, resolves to prepare Amendment number 6 of the Town of Port Hedland Local Planning Scheme number 7, as shown in Attachment 1. 2, in accordance with Regulation 35.2 of the Planning and Development Local Planning Schemes Regulations 2015, determines that Amendment number 6 of the Town of Port Hedland Local Planning Scheme number 7 is a standard amendment for the following reasons. A, the amendment would have minimal impact on land in the scheme area that is not the subject of the amendment. B, the amendment does not result in any significant environmental, social, economic or governance impacts on land in the scheme area. And C, the amendment is not considered a complex or basic amendment. And 3, authorises the Chief Executive Officer to proceed to advertise the proposed amendment number 6 for a period of 42 days in accordance with Regulation 47 of the Planning and Development Local Planning Schemes Regulations 2015, immediately upon receipt of the Minister for Planning's approval to advertise. Can I have a mover?
So moved, Chair.
And a seconder?
I second the motion.
Does the Commissioner wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Thanks.
I will briefly speak to it. This is almost my career coming full circle on me. In my first term as a Member of Parliament, I chaired the parliamentary inquiry that looked into Airbnb and the impact of short stay accommodation. It was at the time one of the most contentious issues that had been before the Economics and Industry Standing Committee, and indeed we had a record number of submissions to that parliamentary inquiry on this very issue. One of the things that we hoped to do as a committee was recommend a framework that would allow local governments to solve for the particular issues in their communities. So everywhere we went, it was subtly different. The Margaret River region was absolutely gasping with challenges around short stay accommodation, but in other places, like the City of Swan, where I reside, wasn't an issue at all. In fact, they wanted more short stay accommodation to encourage tourism. So it is really important that the local community considers this advertisement and provides their feedback to indicate what they would like done around short stay accommodation. I get the sense that in Port Hedland it could be a key enabler for tourism opportunities and contribute towards the economic diversification of this part of the world. So I would just strongly encourage people who have an interest to participate in the advertising or to this consultation process. This is just the sort of thing that local governments should be doing, listening to their communities, considering the issues that affect them and thinking about what their future could look like. So I'd just like to strongly speak in favour of the motion. As the motion is not opposed, I could declare the motion carried by simple majority. Item 9, closure. Item 9.1, date of next meeting. The next ordinary meeting of Council will be held on Wednesday, 29th of October, commencing at 5:30 p.m. Item 9.2, there being no further business, I declare the meeting closed at 5:43 p.m. I thank Commissioners, members of the public, the CEO and the staff for their attendance.